Hi everyone, Lee from ESU here, and in this video we're going to talk about some new updates for the CabControl DCC system. The CabControl, of course, consists of a mobile control 2 throttle and our ICU integrated control unit base. There's also going to be a firmware update coming soon for the Sound 5 decoders, and all these things combined will allow you to have some great new features, including a speedometer, some brakes, and some other really neat features to also connect with other formats such as JMRI. So stay tuned and I'll get the camera turned around and we'll show you all the great features in the new software. Alright everyone, I've got the camera turned around now and you'll be able to see the throttle. And the first thing you'll notice on the throttle is the new speedometer dial. The yellow needle is going to give you the requested speed, and we'll see this actual scale speed displayed as well. But really quickly first we'll go through the functions. So you'll be able to still scroll up on the functions and get all 30 functions. We are adding some new icons as well so that they'll be more appropriate for what the functions do. So just as before, all 30 functions are right there available. No shifting, no exit or menus to get to all 30. So if we bring it back down and we'll start the locomotive up, get the lights going. And then I'm going to give it a speed command. So this is a requested speed. As it gets rolling here, you will see the gray bar up here with a number below it. That is the actual speed. It's being reported back from the locomotive. Now this does require a little bit of calibration. And what you'd want to do is use a speedometer, whether it's a speedometer tunnel or an in-track speedometer. And you'll want to set the locomotive for max speed, full speed. Pick your top speed that you want the locomotive to go. So if it's 70 scale miles per hour, which is what I have this one set to, which is very prototypical for a modern Dash 9, you'll run the locomotive through the speedometer and adjust CV53 up or down until the locomotive reads a scale 70 miles per hour on the speedometer. Now this will work in any scale, HO, N scale, O scale, G scale, narrow gauge, whatever it is. You pick your top speed and adjust the CV until it matches through the speedometer. Once it matches, now you'll actually get the scale speed. And you can get it in miles per hour, you can also get it in kilometers per hour, and it's very, very cool to actually get the real speed. So if your speed limits on your layout vary, or you have a set speed limit, 20 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, whatever it is, you'll actually be able to see that real speed being reported back. The other neat feature we have, you'll see these slider bars on either side of the speedometer, and these are for brakes. So you have an on-screen brake. I've programmed the one on the right side for an independent brake. And what this is going to do is it's going to reduce the deceleration rate, which is set in CV4. So the more I give it brake, the faster it's going to reduce the deceleration rate all the way to 0. And of course I can change directions while it is stopped, and it will now go back the other way in reverse as it gains speed again. We'll just hit the brakes again. And this is going to require a little bit of adjustment for your deceleration rate in CV4 to get this value set exactly where you want it. The other brake slider is for brake 2, or the automatic brake. And this one actually isn't fully set up, so it likely will not do anything at this point because it's not set up. But what you'd want to do is go in and set up what the maximum speed is that you want the locomotive to be able to run when the brake is applied. If you want it to stop the locomotive, that value would be 0, and that's a CV setting in our decoder. If you want the locomotive to just slow down to a specific speed, then you can set that in the decoder as well for brake 2, or even for brake 1. You can also choose to have the dynamic brake displayed on one of the sliders as well, rather than brake 1 or brake 2 for independent or automatic brake. And again, you can decide on brake 3, which is typically the dynamic brake, if you want it to stop the locomotive or just slow it down. It's pretty simple there. That's just a simple CV setting. Now it will require an ESU decoder with new firmware, our Mobile Control 2, and our CabControl integrated control unit base to get the feedback for the scale speed. The update will also eventually come to the ECOS, and you'll be able to see those things on the ECOS if you use a Mobile Control 2 throttle with your ECOS as well. That one's a little bit further down the road. The other neat thing is this throttle with our app can also now be used with a JMRI server, so you can use it directly with an LNWI or with a Wi-Fi tracks module for NCE. And I'm just going to go ahead and mute this so that we don't have to listen to it while I'm talking. And so you can connect it to a computer running JMRI WeThrottle server or an LNWI or the Wi-Fi tracks directly, and use our app instead of Engine Driver app. So it's a really neat addition. Of course, you also have the ability to side scroll, just like always. You can scroll from the middle of the speedometer, that's probably the best place, or from the functions, and you can get your side scroll. We've also made consisting a little easier as well. So if we want to build a consist, we hit the 3 dots, we hit create consist, and now the -9, because I started with it, is showing first, and it's showing in forward. Remember, forward is to the right. We hit plus, and now we can grab our other locomotive we want in the consist. Maybe we want it to go in reverse. And now we have both locomotives in the consist. We give it a quick name, and we'll call it consist number 1. And we'll hit save. Now you obviously would probably come up with a better name than that, but that works for this purpose. The brake sliders will be available in the consists on the production release of this new firmware. And that will come. And what's really neat about that is the function will, for the brake, has to be the same for all the locomotives in the consist, but the brake slider will then apply the brakes to all the locomotives in the consist, whether it's operated from the consist screen or from any member of the consist. So the independent brake will automatically apply if you run it from the lead unit, or if you're running it from a trailing unit or a middle unit, whatever you're wanting to do. That way you have direct control of lighting and the horn and all those things from the lead unit, as well as the brakes. They all just have to be on the same function key in order for it to work. But one of the neat things is if we wanted to add or delete locomotives from consists, you'll now see an icon in the middle here. It looks like 2 locomotives, and that is our new consist menu. And you'll be able to see the locomotives that are currently in the consist. And then if we hit the little plus, we only have one other one in here, so we'll go ahead and add it. So now we have 3 locomotives in the consist. Why is this really useful? Well, no longer do you need a consist address for your consists. They're just built right here in the system, so you don't have to have any locked-in consists anymore. And you don't have to worry about people breaking your consist by accident, doing programming, things like that on your layout. And your hostler can have a little more fun with building consists. So now you have an array of locomotives in your engine facility, and then you can randomly choose the ones you want to put together. Just simply build them by hitting the plus key and adding them in. Maybe your train leaves your yard, goes up a grade, or it needs to go up a grade and needs a helper along the way. Well, now you can simply just tap the plus, we add our helper, it goes up the hill, and then once you get to the top, you can just go in and hit minus. Now the helper's dropped. And then your train goes on to the next yard. Maybe when it gets to that yard, the engines need to get changed out. So now you simply can hit the minus key and delete them from the consist, and then you can add in new ones. And so you're not locked in anymore. Each yard can choose what locomotives it wants to put together, and you can really get some creative mixes of locomotives now. It's very, very simple. And you can just keep adding as many locomotives as you have in your roster. You can add to the throttle for the consist. You do have to have at least 1 locomotive set, so you can't delete all 3 of these. If you wanted to completely delete the consist, you would delete the consist as you would delete a locomotive, just by hitting the 3 dots and hitting delete locomotive from the consist screen. That would actually delete the consist. All 3 units come out that way. And you can just rebuild a new one with the new units. If you don't want to completely delete the consist, of course, if you want to keep one of these in it, you can delete the other 2, keep the 1, and you still have that. So if I wanted to get rid of this number 30 here. I just hit the minus, and now I just have the 2. So it's pretty simple and a lot easier to get to, a lot less menus. You also don't have to worry about consist function control anymore because you can now directly control any member of the consist just by swiping to it. So this locomotive is part of a consist, and you'll see that by it says multi there, and that multi means it's part of a consist. And so now we can turn on the headlight, turn on other lights, blow the horn from that unit because it is the lead unit of the consist. Now you get to the other end of the line and maybe the crew changes ends. So now it's just a simple swipe back to the rear unit in the consist. Notice that it also says multi. That is my rear engine in the consist, and now I can turn its lights on and I can blow its horn and things like that going back the other way. So no longer do you have to worry about having the rear lights on a back-to-back consist by accident, things like that. The horn can always come out of the leader, and you can always be a little more accurate with your consists. Of course, any function that you trigger from the consist menu will trigger in both units. So from the beginning, you can hit function 8 to start all the locomotives from this screen, and then you can simply swipe to the leader and then run the consist from the leader, getting the sounds you want just from the leader. So it's a really simple system, no programming really required, and you can pick and choose what locomotives go in the consist a lot easier. And now, of course, the feature that most of you have probably been really asking for and wanting the most, I'm going to touch on last, and that is simply adding your own photos to the throttle. We can now do this. So you'll see here in CabControl settings, we now have upload images. And if we tap on upload images, you can now add in user configurable images. You have the ability to add 500 images from a user standpoint, as well as it still has the factory images as well. So there's a lot of images to choose from. If you don't want an image, you can just hit the little trash can there and it will delete the image. You can replace it with a new one. And we'll show you in another video how that works, but it's simply a matter of plugging the throttle into your computer and moving the image onto the throttle. It will then upload it via Wi-Fi to the CabControl base. The images do have to be 190 pixels by 40 pixels in order to go on and not stretch on the throttle. And we use Gimp. There's instructions on our website for how to do that and edit the photo down to be the right size for the throttle. It's the same instructions that work for photos on the Ecos, so if you're familiar with doing it on that, it's the same process. If you're not familiar, it's okay. It's pretty easy to do, and I'll show you in another video how it works. So that's pretty much that. Once you've got the image on the throttle, then it's simply going in and editing the locomotive. And we're going to choose, click on the photo, and we're going to choose image type, user icons, and now you'll see your user icon will start at index 0 and go on up from there. There's some silhouette user icons already in the system. If you don't want those, of course, they can be deleted and replaced. But we're going to click on this one user icon that we've already installed and hit save, and now that photo is set for this locomotive. And of course, it's the wrong photo for a -9, but you get the idea. Any photo can be used. It can be a stock photo. It can be your own photo that you take with your own camera, or it can be a photo of a real locomotive. However you want to look at it, you can add it. Now, in our system, forward is going to be to the right. So if your locomotive in the photo is pointing to the right, it will make a lot more sense for when you're doing your direction. It'll be easier to glance down. You'll see the head end of your locomotive in the photo, and you'll know that right is going forward and left is going in reverse. So it's pretty simple in that regard. And that's pretty much it at this point. Of course, we're still going to go through and add a couple other features before the final release, but this is kind of the major things, and we just wanted to give you a quick preview of what's going on. Look for this release to be out by the end of April 2024, and we thank you for being an ESU customer. Keep enjoying your trains, and we'll see you next time.